Cry of Fear is an indie survival horror game created by Swedish development studio Team Psych Scholar. Originally a mod for Half-Life by Valve, and eventually turned into a standalone game developed in the Gold Source engine, you play as a man named Simon, a severely mentally ill man whose only companions are his childhood friend slash unrequited lover Sophie and his psychiatrist. Obviously, from this picture you can get a sense that his life is pretty bleak. Cry of Fear is a game that at its core is about a single topic, mental illness. But I'm not here today to analyze its plot or intricate storytelling. I'm rather here to analyze how it conveys this message. You might be asking, how can a game effectively convey the experience of someone else's mental illness? The question may sound silly at first, maybe even illogical. It's impossible, you might be thinking. Intricacies of the human brain are too difficult to even define the human experience, let alone convey that experience to someone else. But I think Cry of Fear manages this feat, specifically using 3 points I'm going to talk about today. Now, I personally believe that Cry of Fear is the pinnacle of the genre, and there's tons I could talk about. But the 3 I'm going to talk about today are sound, graphics, and gameplay. These 3 should cover most of the things I could possibly talk about. The first point, and one of my favorite to discuss, sound, is sort of the underappreciated element out of the 3. Cry of Fear's soundtrack is very subdued. When it has music, it's low, droning, orchestral, at times melancholic, but also at times anxiety-inducing. But I think it's the moments without music. That's when I think the sound design of Cry of Fear really shines through. I think this point is best stated by Video Game Donkey in his video about sound.
Ironically, it's often those slower, more quiet moments where the player is most focused on the sound design.
I'm gonna play you a clip from my recorded sessions of Cry of Fear, once with the original audio, and again with added music, to see which one feels more ambient. Obviously, it's the one without the music. I mean, listen to the ambience. A quiet city, only the sounds of someone's AC and the night. I think this quiet, restrained type of sound design is quite prevalent in some of the best examples of horror. Speaking of being a product of its genre, I think it's time to mention the gameplay elements of Cry of Fear, specifically in how these elements contribute to the emotions and suspense. The 2 biggest elements I want to highlight are its inventory system and its save state system. Both of these elements are genre standard for the survival horror genre, and for good reason. The inventory system is one of the largest factors in creating tension in the game. Look at this. 6 slots. 6 slots is all they give you. That means weapons, health items, your flashlight, and keys. You only get 6 slots. There are a total of 24 weapons in the game, so if you carry a flashlight, a syringe, and 2 open slots for key items, which you often need 2 of to complete a chapter, that leaves you with 2 slots for weapons. Which, by the way, each weapon has a unique ammo type, so having to ditch your weapon for a worse one that has more available ammo is quite common. This system of inventory is a staple in the survival horror genre. The idea of being forced to remove some items was first introduced in one of the first survival horror games ever, Alone in the Dark, and further popularized by iconic survival horror game Resident Evil. Speaking of systems popularized by Resident Evil, in the original Resident Evil, you had to find these ink ribbon items, then find a typewriter, and then you could finally save your progress. In Cry of Fear, you have to find these. Tape recorders. You can't save your progress unless you get to one of these, which add more anxiety around dying. If it's been 20 minutes since you've saved, there's more consequences to dying than if you get checkpoints every fight. These tape recorders are pretty ingenious. They can both serve to build and ease tension. Let's say you find a room filled with ammo, health, and a tape recorder. Normally, this would be a good thing, but in Cry of Fear, we can infer that this means there's a boss fight ahead. And most of the time, you'll be correct. But these tape recorders also act as breaths of fresh air. After you've been fighting and solving puzzles for a long section, maybe you just finished getting chased, you turn the corner and see one of these. You can let out a sigh of relief. Whew, I made it. This is like the only horror game where I actively won't stop playing because I'm so skitsed out. Down, down, I don't care, I don't care. I don't care, I don't care. Down, 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 down. I would like to go down. Down, please. Thank you. I hated that. That was actually... I hated that. I really hated it. Now, looking at the footage of the game I've been showing, you may notice this game does not look quite as good as most modern games. That's because this game started out as a mod for a game that came out in 1998 and started development in 2008. The game engine used to develop Cry of Fear is the Gold Source engine, created by Valve. This is the same engine used to create iconic games like Half-Life, Team Fortress Classic, and Counter-Strike. This engine is also known for its ability to inadvertently create very eerie environments. Take a look at this Counter-Strike footage of me wandering on an empty map. It feels wrong. It could be this postmodern resurgence in replicating old styles of video games in horror genres that's been a recent trend. But playing Cry of Fear seems to capture so much of that uncanny, liminal feeling that old Source games have. I know this video is only a sliver of the content, themes, and messages Cry of Fear contains, but I hope that I could at least give you a glimpse into the depths of this depressing, ominous video game. And I encourage you, if you can handle horror and some pretty dark themes, play the game for yourself. It's free on Steam, and it's like 15 years old, so you could run it on your microwave. Steam says I only have about 11 hours in this game, and I would wager about 2 of those were just gathering footage for this video. Despite its brief length, this game has stuck with me for years since I first played it. I find myself thinking about its story and mechanics a lot. It's why I chose to make this essay about it in the first place. Cry of Fear may be a survival horror game about battling monsters, but in reality, it's about fighting the real monsters we face in everyday life. Combined with a gripping story, a spine-chilling soundtrack, anxiety-inducing mechanics in the Source engine, and I personally think you've got a contender for one of the best horror games of all time.